I'm Ferrett. I'm the author of Serious Fun. We're doing our first video.
I'm Josh. It's my job to come to Ferrett's house on Tuesday night and beat him at cards.
This is my #1 pick for the best card in Morningtide.
I would call it a number 2 just because no protection.
Right. But the thing is, it fills what I call that Soul Warden slot, which is it's something you lay down early, you expect to get some benefit from it, and your opponents are going to kill it. But, you will get the benefit from it in the meantime. In this case, you get, a big attack or whatever you want it.
Taurean Mauler is an excellent 3-mana card, and a lot of people are comparing it to Countryside Crusher, which is also a giant warrior.
Right.
That extra power and toughness, but...
Countryside Crusher locks you out of mana after a certain point, and I'm not really thrilled about that. But people have been talking about how, basically the Crusher will, basically get infinite and have huge land, but the problem is you're stuck at whatever land you had the minute you cast it. If you have a couple lands in your hand, you can do that out. And frankly, in multiplayer, you really want to get up to 6 or 7 land if you possibly can to start throwing down the big spells.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing Giants. Multiplayer, you're always hungry for mana, so
right.
Then more of a dueling card.
Yeah, if you want to combine it with something tricksy, like Life from the Loam, or, lay it on, turn 7 as opposed to turn 3, it might be good, but...
Until your birth.
Meantime, I could be wrong, but I think it'll be good in multiplayer, but not as awesome as it's going to be in duels. Reach of Branches. The best thing about Reach of Branches, which I didn't even realize? Instant, yeah. I mentally chalked it up as a sorcery, and I'm like, holy crap, you can whip that out anytime?
Yeah, get it back anytime you play a forest.
Right. But for all of that, it doesn't fall on our top 5 list in either case, because it's just too much mana. Mm-hmm. It's really great. You can recycle, and a lot of multiplayer games come down to attrition. But at 5 mana, you're either casting that or you're doing something else.
Sure. It's a nice card to include in a deck. It's not a bad card. It's a great way to recover after any board clearer. Mm-hmm. And it's nice that you can buy it back by laying a forest. But ultimately, it's not really going to make your strategy or break your strategy.
Leaf-Crowned Elder. This is my #5 pick. I like it because, it's aggressive. For 4 mana, you get a 3/5, and you can cheat all sorts of things into play.
All sorts of tree folk, shaman things.
Hey, but you know what? They're so extravagantly overpriced that cheating them into play is generally a good idea.
It's a nice perk, but you're in green, you're going to be able to get a lot of mana, play out a lot of land-fetching cards, mana-producing cards, and just play those guys. I'd rather be cheating out dragons, angels, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you want, get sneaky with a conspiracy.
Good point.
Stonehewer Giant. This is my #3 pick. I think it's a fantastically strong card.
I'd say #4. Somebody wrote a pretty good article about it.
Right, and strangely enough, I agree with that guy 100%. He was phenomenal. I think Wizards should pay him more money. Garwig Squad. This is your #5 card, and I have become increasingly convinced it's only because it's called Garwig Squad.
Well, I will admit that that's a factor. It reminds me of that madness feeling of, playing out a little guy, a little rogue, getting your attack in, bam, 3 mana. You can really screw up somebody's strategy with 3 cards.
And you can Jester's Guy. Yeah.
Exactly. Plus 5/3 Goblin. Just straight up, it's a 5/3 Goblin. That always makes me happy. I like to beat down with goblins.
I'm not opposed to it. I think it gives a lot of strength to the goblins deck now, because one of the big problems with the goblins is it comes out early, blazes really fast, and then sort of dies out. Mm-hmm. Whereas this can actually just sort of screw up somebody's deck, stop them from interfering, and gives you a little bit more beef a little earlier so you can take down people quicker. Gilt-Leaf Archdruid. I really like the idea of this card. But you know what?
You just like the idea of reaching across the table and just taking your opponent's land.
Yeah, I do. And you know what? I dream about that nightly, and it's only going to happen in my dreams. Because frankly, if you have 7 guys out and you're not winning, you got some other problems.
It's just too many for what this does. It's an awesome feat. You've stolen somebody's land. That's amazing. Now you still have 3 other guys with land that I guess you could take, assuming that you survive the next few untaps.
Right, and the thing is, all those druids, I've looked them up, they get you more land. I really like the concept. I really dream of this happening. I don't know when it's actually going to happen in real life.
It's kind of like you're beating me.
Oh, don't even start. Reveillark, or Reveillark, or Reveillark.
Reveillark, the eggs of larger cards.
Right, or Reveillark, like it's a pirate card.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I like it. Despite the fact that I have no idea how to pronounce it, this is my number 4 card for the set, because I really like the idea that you have a 4/3 flyer that brings stuff back. It's great protection against Wrath of God, it's attractively priced, and it's a good beater in the air even if they never do kill it.
If it was in a different color that didn't have very similar tools, I would be completely with you. Mm-hmm. It's not type 5 for me, but it's still a card I know I'm going to play. If it could get back maybe guys with more than 2 power.
Right.
Something.
Right. The thing you have to remember is it's good for standard legal decks. So if you're playing standard legal multiplayer, bump this one up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Stonybrook Schoolmaster. 2 words, folks. Intruder Alarm. And then you add in Drowner of Secrets. Hey, it's a deck. I don't think you really have to put a whole lot of thought into this.
Infinite milling.
Right. And then your friends will go, hey, and kill you every time you have, like, land or show an intruder alarm or anything for the rest of the evening.
Merfolk. Yeah.
Right. It's definitely a good card. I like the idea of it. Particularly you combine it with Grimoire Thief. You have, you know, a whole bunch of possibilities.
Once.
And it's not particularly fun.
Merfolk combo.
Right. You can do it. Certainly it's good. It's powerful because of that, but I'm not sure how I feel about it otherwise.
Merfolk combo. Don't do it.
Evil. Feudkiller's Verdict. Again, I would say this is number 6 on my list, but this is number 3 on yours.
Yeah, that's big for me. Because I am more of a control player. You know, I'm
more of a control player.
Well,
I like that.
Yeah, you're pretty much a control player yourself. But
No. I mean, when have you ever played anything remotely resembling aggro?
I like to play control, and I like to gain 10 life at once and make giants. I enjoy every element of this card, other than the fact that it is a sorcery. But 10 life is like generally 2 turns worth of being attacked. So if you're using 1 main phase, you're still coming out ahead, generally surviving just to get an extra draw, even is nothing to laugh at. But also, you can get a 5/5 giant warrior out of the deal, which makes it pretty sweet.
Right, and I actually like the fact that it's, you know, it's not so strong that people are going to freak out.
Sure. You know? And the other thing is that you can set it up easily by attacking someone, making sure that they're going to be low on life, and you're going to have more than them after the 10, so that you get your guy.
Right. Rustic Clachan, which, according to the internet, is how you pronounce it.
Okay, well, you know, the internet never lies.
Right. I was surprised when you chose this one, honestly.
Well, what I really like about this is the combat trick land. It doesn't really take up much of a slot in terms of your deck construction, but later on in a board position-based deck, you know, an aggro deck, a mid-range deck, you can play it out as a combat trick, and I like that it can affect the power that you already have on the board immediately when you draw it. I think that that's a very interesting step in land technology.
Right. Whereas I look at it and go, wow, it's a combat trick, it's overpriced. But it does count as a land, so maybe it's better than I think. If you've been paying attention, you will note that we haven't mentioned it, but it is the elephant in the room. It's also every other creature type in the room. That would be Chameleon Colossus.
I'm glad that they finally printed a good sliver.
And it is an awesome sliver. It's his number 1 card, it's my number 2 card. It's an incredibly potent card for multiplayer, because the really nice thing about it is, particularly in multiplayer games, you get to the end game, you have a ton of mana, what do you do with it? In this case, you make it into a 16-16, 32-32, doesn't matter.
And what I like so much about that is that it's a 32-32 with protection from black. Mortify is not going to come out of there, Dark Banishing, Rend Flesh, what have you. It's not just going to knock that out from under you.
Right.
Red has to scale its attack as you scale its toughness.
Right.
It's almost impossible.
The only downside to this is it doesn't have trample, but if only someone put a Loxodon Warhammer on this thing.
It might be a horned sliver.
Ooh. But if they put if they put that Loxodon Warhammer on, they attack, I bet they could get 4 digit to life.
Primal Rage.
You're really pushing it here, but